I have so much respect for Sid Meier and Firaxis, but I can't get into it. So
Firaxis. Are we gonna pick on the way somebody pronounces something 3 weeks in a row?
No, that's fine. It's Firaxis, but that's fine.
We're not doing that here.
You started it.
At least when it's me. Yeah, when it's me, no, we're not doing that.
And there's the intro. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the NerdNest podcast. It's me, it's Rich, it's Russ. It's not Carrie, but he might show up halfway through the show. Only one way to find out is to keep watching. So we've got a lot to talk about today. And the thing that I wanted to start the show off with is Sony has finally said the quiet part out loud. The thing that we all know to be true, and that's that not putting their games on PC has been a mistake. And now that we have games coming to PC, specifically PlayStation games coming to PC, Sony's like really enjoying it. And I don't know how anybody could really be surprised by this, because that's a whole bunch of customers that they couldn't reach before, and now they can. Just to be completely clear, this is not actually coming from Sony, but from a former Sony executive. And he basically said, putting your PlayStation games on PC is like printing money. Rich, what do you think about this article?
So I think you can probably guess some of the things that I'm thinking about. Like, the main thing that I think about when we talk about stuff like this is that, like, there is this PC singularity that I've been like predicting for a while. And a lot of people that are invested in Steam have been predicting it too, I would say. And you see Xbox, pretty much not having an identity anymore, but more importantly, just kind of saying like, oh, the console wars are over, right? Like, I think that was something that Phil said this week or last week. And this is similar, right? With Sony kind of realizing that, yes, you print money on PC. And I just think that there's so much, it's a virtuous cycle, right? There's so much inertia in moving to PC, not just for an individual company, just overall, that the PC library just becomes larger, which means that the consumers that get invested in PC don't want to leave. But other, consumers for PS5 or Xbox, there may be less inertia there, and they may be willing to leave or try PC. And just the longer that goes on, the bigger of an audience that PC gets, and the smaller of an audience that individual consoles get. So that's the main kind of overarching thought I have around this stuff.
Yeah, I can't speak for anybody else. And Russ, I'm going to ask you a question in a second, but for myself, for a very long time, I was a PC gamer, but by PC gamer, I mean, I played MMOs. Like, those were the games that I played. I also would have a Nintendo console at the same time. And then a few years ago, I decided, I want to try out the other consoles as well. And I really kind of put my PC stuff off to the side, and I really didn't spend much time playing PC games. But then the Steam Deck came out, and the Steam Deck was a console-like version of the PC. It's almost, I feel like I've heard a lot of people call it PC 2.0. And I picked up the Steam Deck, and I started buying more games on Steam, adding to the library that I already had. And the more that I did that, the less that I was interested in playing on my PlayStation 5 or my Xbox Series or my Nintendo Switch. So much so that the Xbox and the Nintendo Switch really haven't been touched, except for like when big titles come out that are exclusive. Everything else has been on PC, and then of course PlayStation games that are exclusive again. So I feel like what'd you call it? A virtuous cycle?
Yep.
Yeah, that virtuous cycle it got me in its wheels, and I'm going around, and every time that it goes around, it just reinforces that the more that I want to play on PC instead of on other places. Russ, is that the same experience that you've had, or are you still, moving around with a lot of different stuff?
I'm definitely a PC minded person now. So it's like, if I can get it on PC, that's where I prefer. And I'm now at the point where, unless I don't see it coming to PC for PlayStation games in particular, I'll just wait, And so I'm waiting at this point, other than like for Astrobot. An interesting thing though is that I didn't realize until I read this article is that there are regions where the PS5 just isn't popular, and so that this is like a whole new market for them when they release on PC. So they mentioned China in particular, and so it's like that's the most populous country in the world, and all of a sudden you can just throw a game to all those gamers who mostly just use PC. Like that's a huge audience that they're opening up, and so that's really interesting for me too. But yeah, I see myself further and further getting to the PC world, which is ironic because all week I've only been playing an Xbox game on my Xbox, but that's because it's Avowed, and I know the save game's going to carry over when I eventually buy it on Steam on sale at some point. And so it's still like a PC game that I'm like playing on a console is kind of the way I'm thinking of it right now, as opposed to buying a game for the console and keeping it on the console, which I've gotten away from. I haven't done that since Horizon Forbidden West and like God of War Ragnarok, and that's just because I didn't want to wait at that point.
Yeah, and go ahead, Rich.
Oh, well, I was going to say it's funny you mentioned China because that is a major sector of growth for Steam in the last 5 years, right? And that data point has been shown out to be true by one, looking at the languages. So like, simplified Chinese was like down here, English was up here, and then now simplified Chinese is above English in most months for the hardware survey. So you see it there, and also they've said it right, like they've said outright. Valve has said outright that it's a big sector for them. So obviously that's going to kind of cascade down to the actual publishers as well.
Yeah, I feel like in the past the consoles, because PC is so much more popular in certain regions, that the consoles have just been completely left in the dark. And, Sony hadn't really done themselves any favors either when it comes to certain regions by not having PSN available in those regions. So those, I think that as they start to embrace PC more, especially if it's quote unquote printing money for them, they're going to start putting PSN in those other regions that are currently unable to use that. And I think that is also a good thing for a lot of people if they are willing to sign up for PSN, which, a couple weeks ago went down for a bunch of time. And there's Kerry, and he can't hear us because he doesn't have his headphones in yet. All right. And Kerry did just join us. So Kerry, we were just talking about, I knew he was going to do that. He always does that. Knock it off. We were talking about this idea that Sony is finally admitting that, it was a mistake to stay off of PC for all of those years. What's your reaction to this article?
Yeah, so I think Helldivers 2 is probably the large thing that they were just like, oh my goodness, that's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. I'd certainly like that. So yeah, I think that that ties in with their whole philosophy of live service games going to PC. And they had like 12 live service games planned that would have been 12 day one games, but then all of them got canceled after Concord. So I don't know. I think they're coming to grips with whatever realities that they need to come to grips with. It's got to be perplexing for them, right? Because they've sold 75 million consoles, 70 million,
a lot.
75 million consoles. Let's just say 75 million consoles. So they're as good as they were for the PS4 generation. So I don't know. I don't know where everything sits, and everything feels kind of in like a weird space right now. But yeah, I think that as we get closer towards it, I think the eventual thing, I've always been of the belief that they were this PC day one eventually, and it's this frog boiling the water, slowly heating it up and getting them closer and closer to that. There's a 24 month, a 2 year delay, a 1 year delay, and it's just going to keep on whittling down until people just accept it.
One thing that's really interesting for me about the whole, like the interview, the guy said, the only way we were able to convince people to release on PC was to say, hey, if we put it on PC, people will like it, and then they'll buy a console to play the next one. Like they, even like in that boardroom, whatever meeting they were having, the only way they could sell people on this whole PC ecosystem was saying that it'll sell more consoles, as opposed to just PC being its own thing and be like, listen, we're going to make a lot of money off this if we just do this. You know what I mean? They had to tie it back to the console thing, which to me is like sitting in a room with a bunch of old folks who just can't like see the new thing. You know what I mean? That's what it kind of felt like for me.
So I'll say
I also have seen a lot of people talk about Xbox's strategy where they're putting their games on the other platforms, which I don't think is necessarily a mistake. And then they're saying, well, what's going to happen is they're going to keep seeing this Xbox logo. And then when the next system comes out, they'll buy the next Xbox. And I don't know that that's true. I don't think that that's going to work. And it almost seems like the same thing that you were just saying, Russ, right, where they're arguing against they're doing it like backwards almost.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Rich?
I'll say this is where I am old, right? Where like I do celebrate this, but I also like am not so sure what this means for long term for PlayStation consoles and for Xbox consoles. We already kind of know where Xbox is headed, but thinking strictly about PlayStation for a moment, if one day PlayStation consoles don't exist, I do think that affects the games that they make, right? Like I think games like The Last of Us and God of War Ragnarok and Intergalactic and Spider-Man are enabled by the notion that these are games that will sell consoles, right? So that I can make an extra 30% off of all the games that sell on this platform. And if they don't have that 30%, they don't have the budget to really make those games. And so what I suspect one day is that their games will look a lot more like Ubisoft games and EA games than they do today.
Ew.
Exactly.
Gross.
Yeah, that's upsetting. All right. Well, I don't want to talk about this anymore. That makes me sad.
Well, so all right, I do have a few closing thoughts on this, and I think it's the reality of the times is that unfortunately at the moment Fortnite has a stranglehold on the entire ecosystem, because no matter where you look, it's like the dominant like there's the where most of their money is coming in from. So they're making the 30% from Fortnite, and that's just most of their money that they're making. So the reality is that Fortnite is this big cash cow that is so far immovable, and we don't know at what point, if that changes anything, how does that affect stuff? So, yeah, I mean, there's a few parts that I have to say about that. Is like, you have to like, okay, do we worry that PlayStation is going to lose a bit of its identity by spreading itself so wide that it can no longer facilitate doing the same type of games that they've always been known for to do? And will that eventually lead to the end of people buying PlayStation consoles? And like Russ and Bill have already said, is that if we look at how we're not of the mindset that people that play PlayStation games on PC are not going to come to PlayStation consoles, and likewise, Xbox games coming to PlayStation is not going to make them come to Xbox consoles. Like, that's not going to happen. I mean, there may be a small, tiny fraction, depending on how much cross progression is there. Like, if you can get some stickiness, right? So, like, Xbox is doing that thing with all their new releases. Indiana Jones Avowed, that if you play a game on Steam, you just press a button and it connects to Xbox. Your achievements sync over, your save states sync over. So now there's a lot less friction to move over to that platform because all of your stuff has progressed over to there. So I think Microsoft has like thought of the strategy of like, let's think of all these friction points. And for Sony, I don't know if they have that, or if they even want to entertain it. Does like, until the point that PlayStation games on PC share the save state and trophies on PlayStation, I don't think that we're going to get there. So I think that that's a thing that they have to do for that slippery slope to occur. The other thing is, though, is that even with this generation being as it is, where it's been a really lackluster generation compared to the previous generations, and through no fault of Sony or Microsoft, insofar as the hardware for the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and the Series S are great value for the money. Like, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with those consoles, but everyone has it been Switch and PS5. So I don't necessarily think that, but then that's probably our generation, right? Like, still the older heads that are buying these consoles, because the same amount of people that bought PS4 is the same amount of people that bought PS5. So maybe it's just our generation that's keeping Sony PlayStation going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Until they figure something out. But I don't know. So I don't see PlayStation going away until all of us go away. And if they figure something out by then, or if they've already transitioned by then. But at that point, being a third-party publisher, I don't think is a bad thing. Like, I don't think Microsoft is like, oh, we're making all this money. Oh, this is terrible. Like, it doesn't matter to these people.
The funny thing that you guys made me think about was that you mentioned that the Xbox is like, okay, if we put our stuff on other platforms, then people would be like, oh, maybe next time I'll get an Xbox. But that's not what's happening with a PS5 owner, right? They got a PS5, and then all of a sudden an Xbox game comes to their platform. They are now thinking, this PlayStation is even better than it used to be.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to stick with PS6 now because I'll have Xbox games too. You know what I mean? Like, why would you say, oh, well, I'm going to go to Xbox because then I can't play PlayStation games? Like, it doesn't make any sense for a regular consumer. And so I don't understand that logic, but it's pretty funny that that's what they're using as an excuse to go that route.
I also don't see any world in which the PlayStation just stops existing, because there's always going to be people who want to walk into a store, buy a box, plug it in with one power cord and one HDMI cord, and not have to think about whether or not the games will work. That is always going to be that's why consoles exist, is because it makes it so you don't have to worry about your games working. Like, for example, I buy a game, I install it on my computer, and then I have to figure out what settings do I set in order to get the best experience for me. And it's nice when you look at the games that you're playing and you're like, okay, well, these are the settings that give me the highest frame rate because that's what I want. And these are the settings that give me the highest resolution because that's what somebody else wants. And it's nice that we have that freedom on PC, but on console, we don't care. Like, they just don't, like, it's one button and you don't have to think about it. It's you just click a button and it's either this or that, and it just makes it simpler. And I think there's a lot of people that really crave simplicity because they just want to sit down and play their damn games. They don't want to have to work. And I understand that.
I can't find the analyst. He's on Blue Sky now. Matt
Piscatella?
Yeah. He went to he had the thing with Kind of Funny Games. And he was talking about how Fortnite has a stranglehold on everything, and for the most part, most everybody that is buying a console does it for Call of Duty, FIFA, Madden, and Fortnite. It's like playing 4 games. So the reality is, there are still going to be people that just want to play 5 games to get a console, and the hardcore really don't move the needle, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, speaking of hardcore, this year, 2025, is going to be a hardcore year. A couple of episodes ago, we started this 2025 games hype list. I'm going to ask everybody on the panel to go ahead and open up, or like click on the link, and hopefully your cookies saved where your games were. Okay, good. So we're going to open this up, and I'm going to start us off with one that I am very hyped for, and I'm also very sad that I didn't get into the beta. Well, at least I tried to get into the beta, and I never found out if I got into the beta. And that's Monster Hunter Wilds. So for the people who didn't see a couple episodes ago, what we were doing is we are going through and saying, all right, this game, here's how excited I am for this game. And we put it on one of those S, A, B, C, F tiers, right? So for me, Monster Hunter Wilds, that is S tier for me. I'm incredibly hyped for it. I cannot wait to play it. I played the hell out of Monster Hunter Worlds, and then when Monster Hunter Rise came out, it sucked me in and did not let me go, so much so that I spent 50 hours playing it on the Switch, and then another 150 hours or maybe 200 hours playing it on Steam Deck. It's probably my most played Steam game, other than one of the, I would say I was going to say my most played PC game, but World of Warcraft is my most played PC game. And this is probably my most played Steam game. So for me, S tier. Russ, Monster Hunter Wilds. You're probably going to put that. I'm not even going to try and predict. Where is that going for you?
So there's many games where I haven't put them in a ranking yet, but that is one where I decided this is where it goes, and I put it in D, or the lowest tier, because I already own like a bunch of other Monster Hunter games that I've never played, and I'm like, I'm not buying this game. I'm not playing this game until I try out the others. Like I was just looking at my library. I've got Monster Hunter World sitting there, never played before. Like why? That was kind of my decision. It was like a self-punishment. We're like, no, you're not allowed to buy this game because you're not going to play it. So I put it at D for me.
That's fair. Rich, what about you? Where are you putting Monster Hunter Wilds? Are you interested?
This is one of the most challenging ones to place. I put it in high B, but I'm the same as Russ. Like I put it in high B just because I have a respect for Monster Hunter as a brand, but I am never going to play this game ever at all. Like there's not a chance. I'm in the same boat where I have a few Monster Hunter games, and I've tried them. They seem cool, and I never follow through on them. I think maybe part of it is the long runtime. Part of it is I never really got into that sort of style of game. But either way, I have a high respect. I will probably never play this game.
I think the reason why both of you, well, if you've tried it and you bounced off it real fast, there's a couple reasons. Number one, Capcom sucks at teaching people how to play this game. You have to go to YouTube and watch like people like Gaijin Hunter or Arex Gaming to learn how to play. And that's a huge mistake on Capcom's part. The second reason that people bounce off it real quick is because there's like 18 weapons and each weapon is like a different character. And you got to find the one that works for you. Yeah. And so a lot of people, they try one of them and they're like, ugh, I don't like how this plays. And they never try the other ones. Yeah. Carrie, are you a fan of Monster Hunter or no?
So Monster Hunter Worlds, I played for 3 hours and I got like the tutorial part of it. And it's the same bit. I respect it a bunch. I don't have the, it's also the Marvel Rivals type of mentality that I have. It's like there's this level of dedication that I know that is required for the game for me to like really get into it and sink my teeth into it, that I know that I can't give the game. So then I just try to like dip my toes in. And when I do, it's just like that super heavy, like, here's how you press X and go over there and skin a dinosaur. And it's like, just throw me in, please. Just let me have fun and figure this out. And I bounced off of that in the intro phase. One of the things that was like kind of like heartbreaking a bit is that my Steam friends library, one person passed away. So he's there in the game in the lobby. He's just like petting this thing. And I'm like looking at the door, I'm like, that sucks. And it's like, I don't know. That's the core memory I have for that game, which is not the gameplay. All of the gameplay loops that I've seen like on Twitter feeds of like people playing, it seems like they're cutscenes. And they're just these like outrageous guy flipping up and timing these hits absolutely perfectly that I don't even think it's real. Like I'll see a guy with just this unreal big weapon and this monster just coming after them. And he's getting this like swing ready and it just times it so perfectly. And I'm just, when I see that, it attracts me to it. But I don't, it's the Marvel Rivals thing. So yeah, when it comes into the tier list, it's more about how I could approach the game, and I just don't have time to do it right now. So it doesn't make the list really.
So I'm going to sing D tier then for you?
Yeah, but not through a fault of the game, but more through a fault of my own.
Fair. And at the end of the show, I'm going to put everybody's tier lists on the screen so you guys can see where we put all of that stuff. So let's move on. And Rich, pick a game from the list below, and where are you gonna put it?
All right, I'm going to pick a game because I want to hear everybody's opinion on it, and because I think it's going to be the closest we're going to get to some sort of agreement. Metal Gear Solid Delta. So
ooh.
I don't know exactly where I land on this. I am I am one of those people that is a little bit like skeptical of like these sort of remakes that like lose, like it seems like a really competent remake, but what I dislike of some of these types of remakes is like sort of losing that sort of artistic value, like kind of some of the saturation, for example, right? Like it looks a little bit different. But nonetheless, because it's competent, because it's Metal Gear Solid 3, which is where I left off on Metal Gear Solid. I finished 2 and I never finished 3. So I want to get back to that. I'm putting it in high A. So
all right.
Hear what you guys.
Russ?
S tier. This is my only other S tier game besides Judas. Wow. And so, because here's the thing, right? Yeah, Metal Gear Solid 3 is not an easy game to play because the color palette is hard, like getting through some of those things. And then the cutscenes, like I just remember them being super long and taking forever and getting a little confused by some of them. And so I'm ready to try this game again. And I would love like a middle-aged guy version of this game. And that's what this one feels like. It's like made for me. Like I ain't got the time for that kind of stuff again. I'll do this, you know, I'll do Metal Gear Solid Delta here. And it's also the start narratively of the franchise. And so that's another part. It's like I want to be part of like the beginning, like where like from here we can go wherever we want. We can go over to what would be the next one after that. Phantom Pain would be the next game after that, if you're not talking about the NES games and stuff. And so narratively, this is where you would start if you were trying to get into Metal Gear Solid. This is the one, you know, timeline wise. And so that's where I think it would be really kind of interesting to check this one out. And so that's, yeah, it's up there. Judas to me is more interesting just because it might have the potential of being very interesting in new ways. But this is going to be like my warm blanket game. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
It's also S tier for me because I've missed out on all of the Metal Gear Solid games. I played about 20 minutes or something of Metal Gear Solid on my friend's PlayStation a million years ago. My memory of Metal Gear is playing the NES version. So I missed out on all of the Metal Gear stuff. And so this is like my jumping on point because people will not shut up about how much they love these games. And so now I feel like, okay, with them bringing it out, this remake, I can give it a chance this time because I've tried like on my retro handhelds to fire up Metal Gear and I always play for a little bit and I'm like, it just doesn't grab me. And I think it's because it's just old and it's a little dated. And hopefully the pretty graphics will, be that little wafting air that picks me up and I float along with the game for a little visual.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That was
so poetic.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Where are you putting it, Carrie?
I'm putting it at a B. I played Metal Gear back in the 80s and I loved Metal Gear a lot. And I don't know if we had this conversation once before, but if you guys ever had a NES Vantage controller,
That's the one with the turbo buttons and the joystick.
Yeah, it had a potentiometer, so you could actually oscillate how turbo-y the buttons would be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys know this, but Metal Gear's password system is basically you can almost divine any password you want. And if you just put on the NES Vantage, you just wiggle around the controller and have the turbo button, you will be placed into random places with random equipment and a whole bunch of other stuff. And after I had played that game for a while, that was one way that I just started playing the game. And it was one of my favorite ways to play Metal Gear. But the music of Metal Gear and the vibe of Metal Gear translated over to Metal Gear Solid. And when I played the PlayStation 1 version, it was everything my expectations were like. My expectations were sky high for the game. And when I played it, it exceeded. I could not believe every part of that game that was just like fantastic. And then when Metal Gear Solid 2 came out, my hype was out of control for that game. And then, boy, oh boy, did I not like the direction that Metal Gear Solid 2 went in.
And you've been holding a grudge against Kojima ever since.
Yeah, kind of. So, like a Snake Eater, it looked like it was like almost like a return to form a bit, but still, it was so when I see Snake Eater, it looks really cool, and I am still interested in the Metal Gear franchise, but I feel like, man, there was an air and a vibe to Metal Gear that has been lost to me, and I keep it locked away in a special place because Metal Gear Solid 2 just destroyed it. So I have not touched anything Metal Gear, like even Metal Gear Solid 4, where it was a super heavy cutscene. I feel like they just lost the plot a long time ago. They like where they were going, and I don't know if I'm just not. I don't know who is the developing Delta.
Not Kojima.
Yeah, so it's like there's like 80s Kojima that I need to make a Metal Gear game, and not 2000s Kojima to make a Metal Gear game. And he's not even doing that anymore. So I don't even know what this team is doing. So it's just like the ship of Theseus, is that it? Where is it where, as it gets rebuilt, is it still the same ship?
Right. Oh, right.
So I'm in that territory where it's like, I don't know. Like I can appreciate it, but it's definitely in this whole terrible zone of remasters that we find ourselves in, because that's like the only games that are selling, or it's conservative enough where they don't really have to spend that much to make these games. So I don't know. It's a B. It's a low B for me, and the only reason it's there is because of my past appreciation for Metal Gear games. But I don't know. I'll probably maybe play it eventually, but it'll have to be, the reviews will have to be so phenomenal that it'll change my mind.
I think I will
right
still,
now, no.
I'll still love it even if it's a 7 out of 10 game. You know what I mean? Like I love Twin Snakes, which is the GameCube remake of the PS1 game. I still love that one. Graphics look better. There's a couple control things that I actually like because it takes after the Metal Gear Solid 2 controls. So I actually like that one. I know that a lot of people don't like that one, but that's the one. If I'm going to play through the original story, I go to the GameCube one instead of the PS1 one. And so I don't mind a half-hearted remake. Like I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? I just need comfort, like creature comforts. That's what I'm mostly like kind of looking forward to.
But Snake Eater itself is still in the I don't know if I like this Kojima like era of like Death Stranding. I look at that game and I'm just like, oh boy, here we go. Metal Gear Solid 2 all over again with this one.
Well, about half the audience is very angry with you, and the other half completely agrees with you, because Kojima he's such a divisive dude.
Yeah.
I will say this about remakes. I have zero problem with companies bringing out remakes, because even if the remake is bad, we always have the original to go back to. And so I have no problem with companies looking at their back catalog and saying, let's put this out again. And if it turns out to be bad, then we can all just pretend that it didn't happen.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like, well, whatever. I know that they would never greenlight a new Metal Gear game. So, okay.
Well, if they own the rights to it, then maybe after they go through the pantheon of the stuff that Kojima made and they remake it from the ground up, then maybe they'll be like, okay, well, now we're going to make our own Metal Gear games because they're selling well. Who knows?
I just don't trust Konami.
This is what I want. I want this game to do so well that they make Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, which was an MSX2 game that we didn't, they never had an English translation. There's translated versions. I've never played that game, but that's like the start of like in between Metal Gear Solid 3 and Metal Gear Solid 1 in terms of narrative. I want to know that story, like other than just knowing it from Wikipedia or whatever. And so I'm hoping that they'll make a franchise out of this if it's good enough. Even if it's a 7 or an 8 out of 10 game, I don't know, sign me up. I love this world, so.
I don't know, man. Metal Gear Solid 2, never mind. I was going to say something very, very mean, but I'm not going to.
Well, let's hear Russ say something about one of these games on the list and where he wants to put it. Which game you want to pick out next, Russ?
Have we done Fable yet? Because I have that up here, but I can't remember.
No,
if
we have not.
No. Okay. So I gave that one a B. I've played through Fable 2 and 3 on the 360, I think, and they're okay. You know, there's a lot of promise in those games. Like, oh, it's going to be cradle to grave. You're going to be able to do everything in the world. Anything you can dream of, you'll be able to do it, right? And it's not like that at all. It's a pretty... Yeah, it's pretty rote,
Yeah.
like RPG. So I am interested in this one to see what a next generation look at it is going to be like. I put it at B because for me, my tier is how likely is it to get my money, basically, right? And so B is like middle of the road, like wait for a sale, $45, like that's about it for me. So I'm curious about it, but my big hang up is going to be the time investment requirement. Like, is it an 80-hour game? Then probably not, and so that's about it. I don't know anything about it other than I think there was like one trailer I watched one time, but I'm interested
With
to see
Richard
where it goes.
Ayoade, who is one of the funniest people on the planet.
Yeah, it was a good trailer, but I'm just not ready to determine whether or not I'm ready to spend money on it.
Gary, are you going to be spending money on Fable, or are you just going to play it on Game Pass?
Oh, Game Pass only. Like for most all of these things, it'd be Game Pass only. I already have Game Pass, so
Right.
I don't know why I would invest in anything.
Well, to get it to play it on Steam, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. No, I mean, I have the gaming PC now, so I have PC Game Pass, and that works just fine. So that's where I've been playing a lot lately. Fable's an A on my list, and the reason Fable's an A on my list is for two reasons. The first Fable for the original Xbox, I adored. I loved the original Fable, and it had a very Molyneux type of hope and promise to it, and that none of it really came to that. But the game had a lot of charm. Like, I mean, it was oozing with Englishness, and it was like an English Zelda. And I just really adored the game and the direction that they took it, in how far they it wasn't a very super deep thing, but all of like the fighting and the magic mechanics and the evil and the good, they were very simple, and they did simple things. It was only 2 layers deep. Well, it was not very, very deep. It was a pretty shallow game, but it was charming and fun enough to play through that I just really enjoyed it, especially as just like an RPG. And the second reason that I'm looking forward to Fable is that those teams are no longer involved, but Playground, I like the games that Playground makes, so I'm very interested to see what they can accomplish inside of that realm. When I take a look at the new Fable trailer, it is entirely divorced from the originals. I do not feel any sense of Fableness from those. Fable 2 and Fable 3 were like, they were okay as well, but I still like Fable 1 the most, ironically. But still, Fable 1, Fable 2, and Fable 3, they felt cohesive. And I do not think that this new Fable is going to be really reminiscent of the first one. If it does, that's cool. But I feel like I'm really excited to see what these guys do. And I do like the Fable type of universe. So hopefully we see where this goes, but it's a whole new universe as far as I'm concerned, and I'm really excited for it.
So the Playground guys are the people that made the Forza Horizon games. So at the very least, the buggy racing will be very good.
Oh, it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be ridiculously good, especially going down that beanstalk. It's gonna be sick.
Rich, are you picking up Fable? Where is it going on your list?
I wasn't until they said that. That's a
S tier.
yeah, S tier now. I put it in C. So it's similar to Monster Hunter Wilds, where like I just don't have, I don't picture myself buying it. I don't have that history with this series, and even more so than with Monster Hunter Wilds, because I don't have it in the same esteem as I do with Monster Hunter series. So I don't think it ever clicked with me, and I think Carrie landed on why. It's the Englishness. That's not something that's ever been attractive to me. So, which is maybe something I have to fix. I'll have to think about that. But yeah, C for me.
It's really just a name at this point. You know what I mean? It's just a name at this point. It's all there is. They just use the Fable name.
How long has it been since the last Fable game?
Fable 3? So there was Fable Legends that I actually played the beta of for the Xbox One, and it wasn't that bad, but it was a game, it was a gas game, Games as a Service. And what was his name? Something Howard. He was a part of Sony PlayStation and then moved over to Xbox Division as a part of the Saboteur group to just throwing some wrenches in the work. He was leading that charge, and the game just like got canceled at the last minute. I didn't think it was terrible, but I didn't think it was anything special either. So I guess that they were just looking at it as like, this is gonna be a giant waste of money. There's no reason for us to do this. It's not bad, but it's not good. So let's just get rid of it. So Fable Legends, so like 2014, 2015.
Yeah. 2010
but
was
then if you
Fable
look at-
3, so 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Jeez,
Yeah,
holy
exactly,
cow.
so-
yeah, I mean, that's crazy that it's been that long since a Fable game released. It would be tough for them to even recapture it after that much time.
Yeah. Yes, it's a whole new universe.
Yeah.
Let Playground do it. Let a whole new studio do it.
And that's fine with me.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than Playground remaking Fable 1. That's as much as I'll say. That's give me a whole new universe. I'd much rather that. Let Playground make a Metal Gear game. I would play that.
So I'm going to put Fable at low B for me for all the reasons that you guys are saying. Honestly, it probably would be a C if Richard Ayoade was not in the trailer as the giant, because he is just so absolutely one of the funniest people that has ever existed. All right. So I think it's Carrie's turn to pick a game to put on this list. Which one do you think you want to go with, man?
The one that I'm going to go with that I don't think anyone is going to mention, but I really liked it when I saw it, and that is Dispatch. And I'm going to put it at an A rank.
Why?
So Dispatch, it had that, so it was almost like, a modern PC adventure game, something like how what Telltale would likely do, where the guy, you're almost like blending two different worlds. So you have the operator type of thing where you got the guy being a dispatch operator. So you're doing that whole segment where it's almost, I guess, like Papers, Pleasey type of game. And then it goes into more of a PC adventure game, but like, story driven. So I like that dynamic between the two, and it almost feels like something like Annapurna would make. So I don't know, it just seemed like super unique. I love the idea. And I loved everything about it. Not an S tier because I'm not super hyped about it. I'm just looking forward to playing it. That's it. It just looks super cool and interesting.
Yeah, for me, I would have said C tier for that game, but I pushed it up to B tier because of Aaron. Shoot, what's his name?
Paul?
Yeah, Aaron Paul.
Aaron
yeah.
Paul. He's just such a great actor, and he's not in enough stuff. And he's doing the cast or the voice of the main protagonist, I think.
Yep.
And so I pushed it up to B tier for me. Russ, what about you? Where's that go?
It's in a C tier for me, which is like keep an eye on it kind of thing. Like if it gets great reviews and stuff, it looks good. I mean, it kind of reminds me a bit of like Hi-Fi Rush and kind of the cel shadedness of it, And I'm really drawn to those primary colors, and so yeah, we'll see.
Rich?
I'm going to give it an S. This is one of those things where like I will certainly buy it. I don't know if I'll enjoy it, but what I want is for more companies to do things like this, right? Like, and I endlessly want that. So that's why I'm putting it in S. I think this is what more companies should be doing.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we all put one on there. Let's switch it up. And I want us to, Rich, I'm going to have you pick one, but I want you to pick one that's a C or a D for you.
Ooh, okay. Easy. Borderlands 4. And I know there are some people that I really like that really like Borderlands, but for me, Borderlands 4 is an easy D. I already don't really care about the Borderlands franchise. I've tried. I never enjoyed it. I think I also just don't really like loot games. I think we've talked about this in the past. Like I've tried Diablo. It seems really good. I don't really care for it. The closest I've gotten to liking a loot game is Destiny. And so like Borderlands seems like it would be close, but it never landed with me. And I also just don't like Randy Pitchford. So there's that.
Has some magic tricks.
Yeah.
Carrie, where are you putting Borderlands 4?
Yeah, it's a D for me. Borderlands, I bounced off of Borderlands as well. I love the idea of Borderlands, but not the presentation. I like the cel shadedness. It's just the world building and what you're placed in feel like, I don't know, like they don't even care that I'm there. Like it just seems, I don't know. I don't want to say cynical, but it's I love loot games for what it's worth. I absolutely adore loot games, and I think there is a magic to, and Diablo does a really good job with loot games, where, you know, Diablo 2 was just peak of it, and then they kind of lost their way by, like, you know, giving you 0.15% for poison resistance while spinning in a circle. It's like, well, that's very specific, and I don't think that helps me for anything. Yeah, so I don't know. I think that loot games, especially with regard to, you're obviously leveling up and you have your skills and stuff, but then the loot is a modifier to that. And that whole thing of like changing that and getting different loot that changes how you play the game is how I love loot games to play. I would love it if, you know, I'm sure that there's a thing in there where it's like you're having a machine gun, but then, you know, you have a sniper rifle and it's like amazing. So then you're like, oh, let me switch this up. But I just don't feel like that there was anything that was there that was, at least on face value to me, that presented an option of like respecking a skill tree to play a different play style. And it seemed like they had different characters that were just kind of whatever. I don't know. Again, it was just kind of a thing that it didn't seem bad, but I just bounced off it really fast. Nothing really jived with me for that game.
So for me, I never played 1 or 2. I played 3. I finished it. So I must have really, really liked it because I don't finish games. I don't have a very good attention span when it comes to that. But this is the kind of game that you don't need an attention span for because it's just 5 seconds of fun followed by 5 seconds of fun. Like I know that there's people who think that the humor is just great. I do not understand that. I find the humor to be incredibly stupid. Sometimes that's great. Sometimes stupid humor can be fun. But like the 18th time you've heard some stupid enemy scream the same line over and over, it does get on your nerves. But if you can just tune it out, put on a podcast or throw on some music in the background and just shoot some dudes with the right kind of bullets, it's really fun. So I feel like I'm saying that I'm hyped for it, but I'm still at the same time not hyped for it. I'm definitely going to be watching reviews before I pick it up. So I think I'm going to put it at a C tier for me. Russ, what about you?
Oh, it's definitely D tier. You know, I played 1 and 2, not all the way through. Like I probably gave them 6 hours each, you know, and this was in like the very much Xbox 360 FPS kind of like heyday for me. And the fact that I didn't finish them says a lot because I was finishing games like Fear and stuff like that I didn't even really enjoy. I was still pushing through, you know. So the fact that I didn't in this game says a lot because it was just overwhelming, the amount of weapons and stuff. And then also, that like toilet humor kind of stuff was just kind of, it wore off pretty quickly, you know, but I love the look of it. I love the
toilet
look of it.
humor.
Yeah, it's like the things are funny the first time that you hear them, but that only lasts for about 10 minutes and it's the same jokes over and over again. But I learned something today, guys. I learned that Russ finishes games.
I
don't know why. I don't know why Fear had
I was
to
really
catch a
into
stray there.
achievements. I was really into achievements at the time, and I was like, all right, I'll play through Dark Sector, you know, even though I don't want to. I'm going to finish this dumb game because I want to get my achievements. So I don't do that anymore.
That game deserves a stray.
Crackdown broke me. I was super big into achievements as well, and then getting 500 agility orbs when I had like 497, and I'm like actively going through this, and I was like, as I was going through it, I was like, I'm not doing this ever again. If there is like an achievement for getting 40 million flags, I'm not getting that achievement. That's one that I just won't get, and I'll be okay with not getting that.
And today I learned I'm a masochist because I really enjoyed those 500 agility orbs. So I'm the problem. It's me.
This is a digression, but Crackdown I got just for the Halo 3 beta. Like I was just like, oh, I'm getting the Halo 3 beta and it has a bonus game with it. And then I started playing Crackdown and I was like, this is legitimately fantastic. Yep. This is like a Grand Theft Auto game, but you are like primordial Superman where you can leap over small buildings. Like that they've never been able to capitalize on again, which is fascinating to me. But no one has. It just seems like I don't know. They had some type of special sauce in there, and everything that did in Crackdown was fantastic and amazing.
The game gets so good once you get all those orbs too, because you get so powerful. I remember that I was around 400 orbs, and I was going for it. I was going to get 500, and I got Red Ring of Death. and it corrupted my
Whoa.
save, like on my memory card.
Oh, goodness
And
gracious.
so I lost it all. And so I never went back after that. And that
Right,
was,
yeah.
That was
Well,
real
how
bad.
could you?
Sorry.
Yeah, that's brutal.
That's so bad. My son,
Yeah.
when I had Google Stadia, he played all of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and like he almost had everything, and then Stadia shut down, and he must have played that game for like 80 or 90 hours or something. Like he had
Right.
Mjolnir and like all the gear and everything. It sucks when your save is just vanished into the wind.
Still regret it.
Yeah, so to cap that off, I still love achievements. But if they're crazy achievements, I don't bother.
I don't care about achievements even a little, and I find them annoying when they pop up on my screen and distract me, especially on Xbox.
But you love Spotify year end.
No, I could not care less about
Oh,
Spotify.
wow.
Oh, okay, so then okay.
My kids, my kids, like we have YouTube Music and we have
Yeah.
Apple Music because I subscribe to Apple One, and I cannot watch commercials on YouTube. But all of my kids also subscribe to Spotify with their own money, and I do not understand why.
That's 3 musics.
I know. You could play all the same songs on the other ones.
Ad free.
Yeah. All right. Well, Carrie, why don't you pick something that's C or a D?
Let's see. I'm gonna go with Pokemon, and I'm gonna put it at a D.
All right.
I have no faith in this company whatsoever to do a good game, and I feel like they're just coasting. They're like, we know we're gonna sell 40 million copies of this. Let's just spread this one texture out 1,000,000 miles. I don't care.
It's John Carmack's
These
mega textures, man.
yeah. I just, if it winds up being like they actually put work into it, I'll be happy. But right now, in terms of like hype, I have zero hype for Pokemon whatsoever. And I know that there's a bunch of Pokemon fans that are just going to love and play it because it's Pokemon, but I need them to at least care a bit.
They don't have to.
They
don't have to.
I know that they don't, but I mean, goodness gracious, you're going to make a lot of money. At least like put in a little more effort. Goodness gracious.
Why would they put in more effort, Carrie, when they can just put in the same effort and make a lot of money?
Personal pride.
Yeah, I don't think they care about that. Rich, where does it land for you?
I'm jumping on the hate train. I have no respect for this game. It's going on the bottom of my list.
All right. Russ?
The last Pokemon game I played was Crystal on the Game Boy Color. I don't plan on playing anymore, so this is a D for me. So it's not going to get my money, but I don't know.
Gentlemen,
my kids will probably love it.
It's unanimous.
Yeah.
All 4 of us. I don't know if this has happened yet, that all 4 of us has put a game on the same tier, but Pokemon Z, whatever, I don't know, ZA.
Pokemon unites us.
Yeah, I just do not care about Pokemon. I never played a Pokemon game until Pokemon X, and I played it, and I was like, that was pretty fun. And then the next one came out, and I was like, this is the exact same game. Why am I playing it again? It's like Madden, where it's like, oh, look, it's the new Madden game. Just roster updates.
Yeah.
All right. So that Carrie picked ZA or Pokemon. Rich. Oh, no. Russ. Yes,
Rich.
Russ. I couldn't remember who went. Russ, pick a game that's C or D.
I'm going to go with, Mixtape. So I have that as a C, and that's kind of like keep an eye on, because that's like a 80s themed. I don't remember much about this game, kind of adventure style game. Is it the same people that made Life is Strange, I think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Is that the one that's Lost Record? Oh, no, Mixtape. I see it.
This might be Annapurna, no?
Yeah, it's published by Annapurna, and I don't see the
It's by Beethoven and Dinosaur. I don't know who that is. Anyway, I like the look of it. It is. It reminds me of the South of Midnight game that's also coming out. Just kind of have that claymation kind of look to it.
Mm-hmm.
This is the game. That's when we were talking about it. I think last was when we were talking about South of Midnight, and yeah, it kind of looks like just I don't know, hanging out in like the late '80s. And so just kind of neat looking. So I'll keep an eye on it and see what it's like. Narratively.
I stand corrected, by the way. They're not a new studio. They made a game called The Artful Escape, which I've heard a lot of good things about.
Oh.
Yep.
I think I played that.
Yeah, it came out.
I don't know anything
in
about
2021.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
I will say that for me, if it's 80s or 90s based, my interest level does go up. If I had just seen this, I would have put it at a D because it's 80s and 90s, it goes up to a C for me. Carrie, where are you putting it?
So the Artful Escape I did play. It's a crazy game. It's almost like Flappy Bird, where you like go up and down like a hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, so imagine that, but you have like a guitar, and you're just kind of going through. Yeah, you're sliding through this world like on a guitar. It's I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Cool.
That sounds cool. What tier did you say?
So I'm putting it at a B. I love these games, these AA games. But it's also the type of game where it's like the Artful Escape. I would not recommend the Artful Escape to most anybody unless you're actually like a hardcore, even like I don't know. I feel like hardcore gamers should appreciate games, right? Like concept games and other stuff. And I feel like there's a lot of hardcore gamers that will only play mega blockbuster AAA games and that's it. And that
I don't think that those are
very
hardcore gamers.
I don't either. I think that's casual, but they really feel like they're hardcore gamers.
I think a lot of people feel like they're hardcore gamers and they're not. And I also think that there's a lot of people who don't feel like they're a hardcore gamer and they are.
So Mixtape is a B for me, and the B tier is kind of like, I guess, where Russ's C tier almost is. There's a line of like hype, and it's just before that. It's a curious, like, oh, I am very curious about what is going on over there, and I'm actively looking. So it's not something that I would just pass by or like, have in my periphery. I am going to actively look at it and see if I'm going to play it. But yeah, also 80s influence I'm super huge in on. So if they can nail that whole aesthetic, that's a big plus for me. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to Mixtape, but it's a B, like a high B for me.
Yeah.
Nice.
The main issue with the game is that I don't know how you're going to play it. Like I'm just seeing these cutscenes
Right.
and it's like, oh, it looks really cool. What am I going to be doing in the game? You know what I mean? And so
Right.
that's kind of where I'm stuck, where I'm like, it looks cool. I got some faith in it, but I need to watch it, because I'm not really sure what's going to happen.
The best thing I could say about it, at least for like the Artful Escape, is the game was like 3 or 4 hours long. And it was like 2 hours too long as it was. So yeah, it's a very concept-y game that has like a weird kind of hipster story. And I was cool with it. I was like, okay, neat. All right, that was fine. I like went through it and did some stuff, and I had fun with it. It was a game that I think most people would have dropped almost immediately. But for what it was worth, I thought it was good. I don't know. So yeah, for me, I get it. I totally get it. It's Mixtape isn't most likely going to be something that I won't recommend to anybody because I know it won't really be appreciated.
So, Rich, I know that you are like, did we say that this is Annapurna?
Yes, and
I know you're a big fan of Annapurna stuff. So, is this on your list or where's it going?
Yes, definitely on my list. Before I give my rating, I want to give you guys a fact and see if it changes any of your ratings. So this game features music from Devo, Lush, Smashing Pumpkins, Iggy Pop, Joy Division, and many more. So does anyone want to know?
Well, that's why I put it at C.
Still
instead
C,
of D.
yeah.
Still C. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Still a high B for me, yeah.
I think I put it at an A. Like I said before, I really like those like high concept, like kind of prestige kind of games. Like I'm a sucker for that stuff. This one, not quite as much as Dispatch for sure. Like there isn't as much to draw me in here. Kind of like you guys said, like, how do you guys play this? Like, what is the actual gameplay here? But yeah, I'm here for a coming of age tale with 80s theme and this Walkman and stuff like that. So I'm here for it. I'm gonna give it an A.
All right.
Nice.
Is that ever? Oh, I got to pick one that's C tier. Okay, so C or D tier. Okay, this one's going to be controversial. I think that there's a lot of people that'll be mad at me, and I'm fine with that. Kazan, the first, I can't read it. It's too friggin' small. Is the first barbarian or the last barbarian? Berserker? I don't know.
First
Something
Berserker.
Kazan.
Oh yeah.
I saw the gameplay and I was like, the game looks pretty, but it's another guy with a sword.
First Berserker.
Yeah. And a guy with a sword attacks things. Okay, great. I've played that game 1 billion times. So For me, I'm putting that at D tier. I just don't care. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's awesome. I hope I'm wrong. Carrie, where's it going for you?
Yeah, it's a C. It's a C for me. It's kind of funny. I almost put it like, it feels like I would probably play it. That would be like an average game for me, right? Like if the average scale is like a 5 out of 10, it would start there as my initial impression of what I would do it. And I have played 5 out of 10 games before. There was like a Viking game that Sega made for the 360 that I played through, and it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. It was just whatever. And I feel like it kind of in that same realm. I got the same impression as you did, dude. Like when you were looking at it, there was no hook that sold me. It's like, oh, that's what going berserk is like. And it's like, all right.
I think I know what that hook is that you and I are not getting. And that's because it's based on a known IP that people are familiar with that I have zero experience with. And I'm guessing you also have zero experience with. So you don't care about the world.
I know of Berserk, but I don't know if Kazan is the first Berserker and this is a part of that whole lore.
It is. It's supposed to be part of that world.
Right. So I could get a lot of people being excited for that. I have never delved into Berserk. I've only seen small parts of it, but I haven't seen anything of it. I think like the most like obscure anime that I've really enjoyed is like a Record of the Lotus War. Which is like a Dungeons and Dragons anime, which is really cool and awesome. I actually really enjoy it, and I used to watch it like in the early 90s. And I feel like Berserk is in that same category. I should just get in all like 80s and 90s anime because that was the golden years of anime anyway.
Russ, where are you putting Kazan?
It's a D for me. I mean, this is the same as like the Sword of the Berserk game on Dreamcast. Same world of that, right? Because that's from the Berserk anime as well. That's the only game I'm familiar with, just because I used to use it as a test game. And yeah, this is just not really my genre right here. Hack and slash, like action RPG.
I am putting it not lower than Pokemon. Pokemon's still at the bottom of the list. So. Just in case you won't.
Not bad, Kazan.
Yeah.
Before you're above Pokemon.
Before we go any further, just want to make sure that we're all doing this the same way. If something is low, like let's say it's low B tier, is that on the right or on the left?
That's on the right.
On the right. Okay.
Yeah.
Just
I have made
sure
one adjustment. Earlier I said high A for Metal Gear Solid Delta. Then I took a look at what was in high A and I said, no, not a chance. Low A for Metal Gear Solid Delta.
Okay.
But other than that, yeah, because I have like Ghost of Yote and Judas up there. It's like relax.
Relax. Sit down, son.
Relax.
Is that everybody for Berserk?
Yeah,
okay.
I believe so.
All right. Let's do another game. Carrie, pick a game.
Anything?
B tier.
B tier. In my B tier, I have South of Midnight.
Okay. Why?
Yeah, that's so I actually really enjoy the art style, and it's along the same lines of Mixtape in some ways. It's like, okay, this is interesting. I saw some of the boss battles, and the boss battles looked cool enough. So I don't know. I think the mix of a brand new IP with a really cool visual art style is something that I wish to succeed. I am not confident that it's going to be fantastic, but I am still interested in it. And it's like a double A game to me. And I want more double A games.
Mm-hmm.
This is a thing that I wish to continue. I'm genuinely, but it's like that line where I'm just like, I'm curious.
Rich?
Yeah, I agree with Carrie wholeheartedly. That was really well said because I have it at high B and like you made the comparison to Mixtape. I have Mixtape at low A. So like they're right there, right next to each other. I really wanted to succeed. I haven't seen anything yet that's like, oh, I really want to play this game. Like it looks cool,
right?
But I just haven't seen anything that's like, oh, I need to play this. It's just like, yeah, cool. Maybe I'll get to it one day.
It reminds me of the PlayStation Direct, where when I was watching Direct, what the hell do they call it?
State of Play.
Thank you. Yeah, it was watching the State of Play, and I was like, "Hey, look, it's another game, a third-person action game with a sword." And when I realized that, and then I looked back at South of Midnight, I thought to myself, the only difference between this and those games that I was less interested in is the protagonist has a crocheting hook instead of a sword, and it's in stop motion. But I'm probably going to turn the stop motion off because I find it jarring in an action game to do that stop motion stuff. And that takes away the thing that makes it the most unique. So I have to put it at, I also put it right next to Mixtape, but it's just a little bit lower than Mixtape for me. And that's C. Russ?
I put it in a B tier, so it is above Mixtape for me. I don't know. I like the world, and it's just kind of like this mix of like everyday plus like folklore and stuff like that. I like the setting of it being in the Deep South.
I do like the setting.
I like the stop motion idea. And it's also being billed as a $40 game, like if you want to pre-purchase it. And that, to me, makes it think like it's a shorter game. And like, that's good. You know, like I like the idea of, you know, a 10-ish hour game for $40. And so it's middle of the pack B for me.
You just changed my mind. It is now bottom of the B tier for me.
4 hours? Sign me up.
Yeah, I don't want to play in this world for 98 hours.
Old.
I know. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Okay, so that's South of Midnight. I think everybody went. Rich, pick a game.
I'm going to go Frag Punk, and I don't know where to put it. So
Frag
Punk.
I made this list. I don't even know what that is. Where is that?
It's a free hero shooter coming out next month. So that's why I picked it, because I've been deep into Marvel Rivals. And so on the one hand, that Marvel Rivals like obsession that I've been having kind of opens the door to me playing other hero shooters. And Frag Punk was already one that like just looked thematically interesting. But on the same hand, really, is I'm 200 hours deep into Marvel Rivals. And so how much time do I really have to play another hero shooter? So I'm going to try it, which is more than I would have said before. So I'm going to put it in low A.
All right.
Would you say that Frag Punk will rival your attention for Rivals?
What you did there.
But take them away, folks. Carrie, instead of horrible jokes, tell me what your tell me what your tier is.
It's a D for me. It's free to play game. I see it and I'm like, okay, I get it, but it's also not to disparage the game at all, but it's in that same, if I don't have the time to actually give it, which is what all these gas games really require. And then you have the whole meta of, you know, playing with teammates and all the other stuff and making sure that you are playing correctly or however you need to play. And then there's just, if I don't play on the day one, I don't think I'm really ever going to get into it.
Higher or lower than Pokemon?
Higher than Pokemon.
That's right.
Russ, what about you? I know you like shooters.
Oh my
You like
gosh. And
Destiny?
I hate online shooters though. I don't like real people involved, you know, like it's too much for me. Even with Destiny, we only played like PvE stuff, you know, like playing like raids and stuff with my small group who's disbanded a long time ago. And Rich made me think of this because as soon as we were done with like Destiny 2, or was it Destiny 1? Sorry. We were playing Destiny 1 and they're like, oh no, we're going to move on to another one. We're going to play The Division. And so they were like, it's like, you made me think of it because you're like, oh yeah, I'm playing Rivals. I'm ready for another similar game kind of thing. And that was the worst $60 I ever spent, was buying that day one. And I'm like, I don't like this game. Like, it doesn't even feel like Halo, you know? And so, but yeah, I don't plan on ever playing a game like this. It's too much. And it has like cards involved. Like you've got like power up cards, like Magic the Gathering stuff. Too much for me. Like that's too many numbers, too many things to consider. And so it's below Pokemon for me, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
We broke
Shots fired.
Darn it.
So mine,
Goodness gracious.
I've also got it at D tier, and it's just above Pokemon. Actually, yeah, it's just above Pokemon for me.
Right.
All right.
Russ, you sure you don't want to put Pokemon lower than?
Yeah, come on, man.
I would rather play Pokemon than that one. So
Jeepers creepers.
Russ, pick a game, man.
I'm going to stick with B tier. So my top B tier is, I forgot the name, Clairvoyance Expedition 33 or whatever. Worst names ever.
Terrible name.
Yeah, I looked up a dictionary like 1, 2, 3. Okay, we got 3 words. Let's go. And so it's a narrative focused. It seems to be a first person kind of, or not first person, but like a one single player game. I don't know. I want someone to take a new swing at it. And it's listed for $45 on Steam. Again, another thing I look at is like, how big is this game? If it's a mid-sized game, that's more interesting to me. So not an A tier where I put like Ghost of Yotei and Avowed and stuff, but this is one I'm definitely taking a look at where if it gets down to like, I don't know, 45 is already a good price. Like it's almost a day one buy if it's got a good enough review at that point.
Yeah, I've got it middle of B tier right now. And I don't have much else to say about it. Oh, Carrie, you do as well?
But I'm actually like optimistic for this game. Like I feel like this is a JRPG inspired game that I am actively looking forward to. Like I feel like they hit a lot of the notes that I felt as a 13-year-old where JRPGs would be 30 years in the future. It feels like more of a modern JRPG than a lot of JRPGs are today. So yeah, I'm even like the old. I think when we've always just seen like the turn-based combat, and then the next with the Xbox Developer Direct, they started showing the overworld and how you would like have your characters like walking slowly through, but like traveling hundreds of miles, right? But like traversing through like you would in a JRPG. Mm-hmm. So once I saw that, it gave me a flavor of the game that they were treating this in such a way of, their 13-year-old selves coming up and, remembering everything that they loved and making a modern JRPG. So it's middle of B-roll for me, but I have like a few things above that. My B-roll is like all stuff that I'm very like interested in, but like not super, super hyped about. I'm very curious about them.
I said the name wrong. It's Claire Obscure. Sorry, Expedition 33.
Well,
without E's and Claire and Obscure, which is weird. So
yeah, I'm with you guys. Mid B. It seems solid. I mean, like I mentioned before, that it's going to be a bit of a hard sell for me, more so because I just don't buy that many JRPGs, and the ones that there are some that I'm very interested in that I just haven't gotten around to, and so I probably will take a while to actually buy this, but it looks really cool, and I really want it to succeed as well.
Yeah, it'd probably be lower for me if it weren't on Game Pass. So, like the fact that I'm like I already subscribe and it's just going to show up on my Xbox or on my PC,
right?
Then that makes it a little easier for me to grab
like
a hold of.
My entire B row is like AA Game Pass Central. It's like everything Game Pass was like billed to be is my B row is what it looks like. And if this is what Game Pass is going to always be, then I'm all here for it. Like this is if this is the only way we can get AA games, then fantastic.
And like you say that, and it sort of obscures the benefit of Game Pass and of B tier games, which is that you never know which one of those is going to be an S for you, right? Like
exactly.
If you get the chance to try 15 B tier games, there's a decent chance that one of those is going to be a big surprise for you, and you're going to love that.
Yeah, Artful Escape was on Game Pass, by the way, and that's how I played it.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but a lot of Annapurna games. I feel like Annapurna is like a fantastic. I don't know how Microsoft didn't acquire Annapurna because it seems like they were a fantastic studio. They just like, hey, we'll just pay you a lot of money and put all your games on Game Pass. But yeah, so Annapurna, I feel like is a fantastic, used to be a fantastic publisher. The whole new group of whatever's going on now, I have no idea. Yeah. But it's I loved what Annapurna was always doing. So yeah, I feel what is it? Co 33.
Claire
Obscure Expedition 33.
Yeah.
Yeah, COE. Just Co 33.
I'm just going to call it 33.
Yeah, 33. 33 Expedition. Claire.
All right. Whose turn is it to pick? I don't know. I've lost track.
What about you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to pick one good God. For me, it's S tier. It might be the one that I'm most hyped for the entire year. And that's Metroid Beyond. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I cannot wait to get my hands on with this game. I've been like Nintendo foolishly announced it in 2017 at E3. I don't feel like they had a choice. They had to announce it at that point because they just released the Nintendo Switch, and then they also announced that they were shipping a new Metroid game for the 3DS. And if they didn't talk about that they were also making a Metroid game for the Switch, people would have rioted. So they had to announce it, but they didn't have anything.
Riots in the streets.
It was just a graphic, and they were like, "We're working on Metroid Prime 4," and everybody's like, "Oh my god, I can't wait!" And then crickets, and then 2 years later, yeah, about that, we got to start over because what we made sucks. So we're gonna go back and get Retro Studios to work on this and see if they can make this game work. And it's been since 2017, a long time that they've been working on this, and it's finally coming out. This is my number one thing that I'm most excited for the year. I really hope that we don't get let down by this.
So S tier all the way to the right would be the most, right?
No, all the way to the left is the most.
Okay, yeah, that's correct. Then what I have is correct.
Well, what you have is correct for your opinion.
Naturally.
Rich, do you care about Metroid Prime 4 or?
Heck yeah. High S, just below, so second below Doom the Dark Ages. Also, Retro has not missed, I think, right? Like, other than Metroid Prime, they've also made the Donkey Kong Country Returns game. Did they make the second one too? The Tropical Freeze?
I'm not sure. I also don't know if Retro is the same Retro, kind of like how Annapurna is not the same Annapurna.
Yeah. But they haven't missed. They make good games, and Metroid is one of my favorite kind of IPs of all time. So this is high up there for me.
Russ?
It's funny. I'm the guy with the retro channel, and this is like low A tier for me. I just don't have rose tinted glasses with it, but I didn't really enjoy the Metroid Prime games as much as I think a lot of other people did. The first one was hard for me because the controls, this is like 2003 or whatever. Like, I just wasn't used to only using one thumbstick at the time. I just figured out how to use dual thumbsticks, and I couldn't do it. So I remember that game being really difficult to control. The new remaster was great. Like, I enjoyed that. But I still never finished that. Never played Prime 2 or 3 other than in game testing. And so narratively, I don't know what's going to happen in this game. Like, do I need to go back and play those games or watch a YouTube video or something? And so there's a lot of unknowns, not to mention the fact that we have no idea what this game looks like or plays or anything like that. And so, it's just it's there. It's got some hype for me, but I don't have a lot of trust in the experience just based on what I've already had before. And there's no way I'm playing this on a Switch because I don't want to use those thumbsticks on a first-person shooter game. So I'm going to have to, use an external controller or emulation or something. So yeah, it's up fair. There, but not quite super high. It's actually below GTA 6 for me.
So what letter did you say? I forgot.
Like mid A tier.
Oh, mid A. Okay. Mm-hmm. Carrie, where are you putting it?
It's S tier for me. So my S tier, left to right, is Avowed, Doom, Dark Ages, Split Fiction, and then Metroid. And just those 4. And Metroid, I am looking forward to just because I'm of the belief that it's going to be a Super Switch title. And I'm interested in seeing what Retro can do on that platform, because the stuff that we've seen on the original Switch still looked really good, but I'm curious to see how that's all going to pan out on the Super Switch. But more to the point is that I love the story and the world that they have for it, how the Metroids work, how their whole bounty hunter system, just Metroid games in general, and Metroid Prime as a 3D first-person game did a fantastic job of using that formula. So I am very much looking forward to Metroid Prime 4 for many, many reasons. But, it's going to be later in the year. I think I almost have my S tier in launch time. So Avowed's already out. Doom is coming out. When does Doom come out? It comes out early this year, right?
I was going to say May, but I could be mistaking that with another thing.
May sounds either right. Way, Metroid May 14th. You got it.
Yeah, so Metroid is definitely June territory for Super Switch. And then Split Fiction is March, and then Doom, and then Metroid Prime. So it's almost S tier is almost just designed from chronologically.
You guys all seem fairly confident. It's like you guys are like 99% it's coming out this year, right? Because I'm
Metroid Prime, yeah.
closer to 80%. Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah, I think it's a launch title.
Yeah.
I think it's a launch title.
I think we'll be playing it in June.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, we'll probably be playing at PAX East.
Oh, hell yes. We can't get through the rest of this list today, but what we can do is, if we all look at the list, does anybody see anything that's coming out soon?
I don't know if it's coming out soon, but the Marvel game 1943 looks really friggin' cool, and that's in my A tier.
Have we seen anything for that other than just cutscene stuff?
That's the thing. I'm like, what is this game?
Yeah, no, it just says 2025. But that is a game that I am genuinely interested in, as insofar as like a Marvel game. But just the cutscene alone, I was like,
and
wow.
that's right. That's also the Amy Hennig game, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Where'd you say you had it, Kerry?
I have it at the end of my A, so like almost like I have Civ 7.
Oh,
Civ.
we missed Civ
Yeah,
7.
Civ
That's
7.
already out.
So Civ 7 is my A tier as well, but all the way at the end, just because I haven't picked it up yet, but I heard reviews are kind of like middling. But I still have it in my A tier because I love Civ, and it's just to the left of that. 1943 is just left of that.
Okay. So Marvel's 1943. Rich, where are you putting that?
I'll give it.
Now that you know that it's Amy Hennig.
a solid A because of Amy Hennig. Otherwise, this is a C because I don't know what this is. But
Right? Yeah. What could it possibly be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, there's a hype that I have for this game that is further beyond for these other games, especially for that just cutscene. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's something special here.
fair.
Russ, where are you putting Marvel 1943 with Captain America and Black Panther in World War II?
Yeah, middle C for me. Like I got a lot of Marvel burnout right now. Not a lot of interest for me.
Fair. And then Civ, since Carrie brought it up, Civ is actually already out. Has anybody on the panel bought it?
I haven't yet, but I'm definitely going to. It will be a game that I 100% own and play. Because, I mean, you can't... it's almost impossible to play Civ and then get sucked into the gameplay loop, and then you're like at turn 87 and hours have passed. I love Civ. I can't get enough of Civ. The gameplay loop of Civ is just intoxicating.
I always want to love it, and then I fall off real fast.
Yeah,
what were you going to say, Rich?
I was going to say I put Civ in the Monster Hunter Wilds tier. Like I have so much respect for Sid Meier and Firaxis, but I can't get into it. So
Firaxis. Are we gonna pick on the way somebody pronounces something 3 weeks in a row?
No, that's fine. It's Firaxis, but that's fine.
we're not doing that here.
You started it.
At least when it's me. No, when it's me, no, we're not doing that.
And there's the intro. Okay, Russ, Civ 7, where are you putting it?
It's at the self-punishment stage because I have 5 and 6 I've never touched, so it's down there with Monster Hunter as well. It's I'm not going to spend money on something I know I
5
won't
is
play.
good.
Yeah.
I still have my Civ 2 floppy over there.
He reaches up and grabs one. There you go. Yeah.
It's like at least 10 feet away.
The idea that you know where a freaking floppy is for Civ 2 is ridiculous. You're a ridiculous person.
The Mega Man 3 DOS floppy disk that I have.
3 DOS? Okay.
Yeah, it's awful.
You know what?
Terrible.
You need to make a YouTube video about that shit right there.
Yeah, no kidding.
Mega Man. Did you know Mega Man 3 was on DOS?
Right.
So Civ 7 for me is C tier. It is something that I absolutely want, but I am not paying full price for it because I know what will happen. I will play 10 turns, and then every time I look at it, I will just be racked with guilt. So I'm just going to wait until it comes out. But it is high C tier for me. I'm still very interested in it. All right. That's going to do it for the 2025 hype list for now. Next episode, we'll try and squeeze in some more if we got the full panel here. Before we wrap things up, there's one thing that I threw in the show notes. There's three things that I threw in the show notes at the last minute. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater currently has a countdown timer. And that countdown timer is, I'm clicking on it now. It's 10 days, 13 hours, 11 minutes, and 40 seconds. So you guys can figure out what time we're sitting here recording. away. It comes out on March 4th, 2025, but we don't know what it is. I'm assuming it's just Tony Hawk's
Remaster?
Pro Skater 3 and 4 remake, or do you think it's
Likely.
something else?
I would think it's going to be. These did 1 and 2 remake, so
Right.
Yeah.
3 and 4 makes sense.
And the date, I like that the date lines up with the title 0304.
Oh, 3-4.
Yeah, that's good. I mean,
Well-
it can't. It can be anything else. It just shouldn't be, right? Like it would be a huge mistake to make a
Right.
timer that is for 10 plus days and it's not Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. Like that's clearly what everyone wants.
So did you? Any of you guys pick up 1 and 2?
Mhm.
No,
I did.
I never
Fantastic.
played a Tony Hawk game.
Oh, what? Oh,
So
He just
I'm gonna
realized he
explain
hates this
why.
panel.
I played the shit out of SSX Tricky. And every time
Okay.
I looked at Tony Hawk, I was like, I can just play SSX. I already have a game where I can
But
do
like-
like half pipes and do a bunch of tricks and land. I didn't
So-
I didn't need
so
anything
different.
else.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Is it? Well, I
So
haven't played it, so how am I going to know?
Tony Hawk on the original PlayStation was like a revelation. That was, and then Tony Hawk 2 was just like,
Yeah.
like, oh,
That's when
it's
I got
even
into it.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tony Hawk 2 was so much better than Tony Hawk 1 when Tony Hawk 1 was already way better than it had any business to be.
It's like Mario
And-
64 on a skateboard with amazing music.
Yeah, like, dude, oh my goodness, everything. Talking about like a game that bangs on all cylinders. So 1 and 2, I hold in a super high regard, and I have it, but when I would play it, and I just play in like 10 minutes to like get a nostalgia hit rather than to play the game, if that makes any sense. And it's a game that, you know, I put hours into Tony Hawk because, you know, you wanted to get better at it. And this is the problem that I find myself in. I don't have that time allowance that I did when I was a kid. So Tony Hawk is the game that is almost like I don't have enough velocity to escape gravity for that game. Like I just like start by burners and then I'm like, oh, okay, I'm happy. I'll stop playing this game. I still love it, but I feel like 3 and 4 is going to be like that as well. It's going to be like, oh man.
Where on your
Hopefully
where on your shelf
I don't-
is the copy of Tony Hawk for the TurboGrafx 16?
the PlayStation one is right over there, but
Yeah, I played a lot of 2, and I played 1 and 2. I have that, and I don't know, the weight of it is off for me, and so it's just like I didn't put enough time in to get the feel of it, and so I just go back to 2 if I want to play anything. But I did like 3
2
and
is
4.
great.
I had those on the PS2, and I enjoyed those. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna go and buy another game I won't play.
was Ace of Spades in part 3?
That was 3. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
in the title screen of 3.
You mean the song?
The song Ace of Spades. Yeah,
Motorhead
the soundtrack for Tony Hawk games are just fantastic. They're just sensationally good. But yeah, the Ace of Spades one for part 3, I had the GameCube version of it, and I loved 3 as well, and I played a lot of 3. But funnily enough, I'm not really like hyped for this game. Like I adore this game to no end, and I hold it in the highest
You
regard.
mean 3 and 4? The
All of Tony Hawk, 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Gotcha.
I feel like 1 and 2 are the high mark, and then 3 and 4 is where they start to come down. But I still appreciate the entirety of them, and I feel like, you know, Skate had its own very serious, almost simulation like for skateboarding
I
games.
really liked the camera angle in Skate.
Right. Yeah. I have no. I like what Skate did, and I know that there's a lot of people that love Skate, and it's almost like Tony Hawk is the Forza Horizon of Skate being Gran Turismo.
Oh, okay.
And you know what I mean? Like in terms of like what people like, which type of game.
You might have just
And
sold
I'm
me on it.
Yeah, Tony Hawk is but it's weird, right? I find it to be so weird because it's kind of like if you were someone like, oh, I love Metal Gear, Snake Eater, I love Metal Gear 3, and then you see like the remake coming out, and you're like, whatever. You know what I mean? It's like it's this weird area that I find that it's almost should be mutually exclusive, but I find myself in this kind of bittersweet zone.
Like a
Bill, it's
Disney
on-
remake of a movie we already like. Like why do we
Yeah.
need CG Lion King? Like it was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like you really like Lion King, and you see this, and you're just like, I mean, you can appreciate it, I don't know. It's interesting.
It's not, well, I mean, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but those movies are not for us.
Sure. Are
Like
these games for us, though?
they're for the kids to go
I don't know how
and
much
get
the kids
excited.
really enjoyed it.
Hey, can I ask you guys a quick
I
question?
think they do.
On music? Can we just take a small digression here for music? There's a thing that I don't know what's going on, but on Spotify, whenever I'm like listening to like older songs, every one of them is like remastered and they sound mostly the same, but then there's just little parts of it that are different and I can detect it and I don't like it. Why are they remastering them wrong?
Well, I don't know that they're remastering them wrong, but I do know I completely am with you, because I was working in here today and I had on my TV over there, because I got like a nice sound system hooked up to my TV. I had music playing and there was a song that came on. I'm rocking out to it. And then something happened in the song and I was like, I immediately, like, my head snapped around and I looked at the TV and I was like, what the hell is going on here? That is not how that song is supposed to sound. But that doesn't mean it's wrong.
No, that's wrong.
If you say so.
I'm gonna tell you something. There's a remaster of "Holding Out for a Hero" by Bonnie Taylor, and I don't come on. You guys have seen Short Circuit 2, right? Like we've all seen Short Circuit 2. The ending, like
hold on, I gotta tell you,
that's the song you were listening to.
There's this English teacher at the school that I work at, and he has an overhead projector, and on his overhead projector he has written J5. And every time he gets it out, he goes, I got to get out old Johnny 5. And none of the kids know what the hell he's talking about, but
absolutely. So, "Hold It Out for a Hero" is like a nerd anthem type of song, and it's a weird place to put it, but it is such an epic ending for just whatever kind of crazy sci-fi music. In any event, Bonnie Taylor just like delivers on that song, and there's a part where she is belting it out, and then the remaster's out, and they just mute that whole part. It's still there, but it doesn't have that energy. And I hear it, and I'm like, that's terrible. I don't know why these people are remastering songs. Is it like a licensing thing? Is it to pay these people less money? What is going on with all of these remasters of old songs? Because I don't feel like they're doing a good job, and it feels like insidious to me, and we should stop it.
I think it's, just my music hat on. I think it's just people reselling records is probably a big part of it. Like being like, hey, here's the 2022 remaster or whatever. It's also probably, some of them are studio remixes. So if they have the original tapes, they're not only remastering, but they're mixing it again. And potentially, maybe the artist didn't like it the way it was the first time. And so maybe they're having input and saying, you know what, I always wanted this to come down a little bit. And so, there's a lot of things going on there. But it's very hard because our ears are really attuned to what we're used to and nostalgia and stuff. So I personally don't like remasters either, unless they're fixing something I didn't like about the original record, which does happen. So
see, Russ gets it.
I will say that there's a YouTube channel, and I wish that I could remember what the YouTube channel is. And if anybody who's watching this knows, please let us know in the comments down below, or if any of you guys know, where they get the stems from popular music, and then they go through and they're like, this is what it sounds like when it's just the singing, and then they add in and they just kind of rebuild the song afterwards. And when you turn on that channel, you're just like, okay, I'm in there and I'm watching, and you're listening to it, and it's just like, holy cow. When you hear like these famous songs and it's just the singing without anything behind it, it sounds so weird, but you really appreciate how good these people were.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of being good at stuff, you guys were good at listening to this podcast for an hour and 35 minutes, and I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Carrie, what do you got going on right now?
I think right now the only thing that I'm going to be doing is like looking at large language models on Strix Halo, and I've been dabbling with that. But I also have a video because now that I've done, I should have did this a long time ago. I needed to be faster here. I apologize. I have done the automation part for doing Cinebench testing, and I should have did this a long time ago. It took like 4 lines to do it, and I just haven't. But now I did. So now I'm actually going through all like the 4800U, 5800U, 6800U, 7840U, 8840U, so we can scale how these CPUs have been doing over power, and then compare it to like the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, where those CPUs sit versus what CPUs are capable of today.
Nice.
Very cool. What about you, Rich? What are you doing?
Marvel Rivals and chilling. I'm still on my
Nice.
little hiatus, I guess. So
Choo choo.
one of these days, I'll make a video again. We'll see.
Russ, what have you been working on?
Well, that the Asus ROG Flow video like took a lot out of me. It was rough. So I took most of this week, just kind of some downtime working on a project I've been working on forever. And so it's going to be a Mac emulation guide. So basically how to emulate every system on the Mac that's possible, basically. And so that'll come out this weekend. Yeah, I'm not emulating Mac. I'm emulating on a Mac. Yeah.
Yeah. I took it the other way. I was like, oh, sweet. Mac OS 9. Oh, that sounds pretty neat.
No, just like how to play, PS3 or whatever on a Mac, which is possible.
Cool.
And so it'd be it's probably going to be over an hour long, this guide, because I'm cradle to grave every little thing. And so
this is Apple Silicon that you're doing it on?
Yeah, on Apple Silicon. So it'll be any of the M series chips.
And the question that I have, and don't answer it because people need to go watch your video. The question that I have, is there a front end that is completely controlled via a controller, or do you have to have a mouse and keyboard? So we'll find that out when you watch his video, which is coming out when?
This weekend. I'm not sure yet. I got a lot going on,
cool.
So we'll see.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for spending an hour and a half with us. What
are you working on?
So Asus held on to my ROG Flow for a while, and it just arrived today. So I kind of missed all of the views, but I'm still going to make a video about it and do my benchmarks and stuff. I'll put that out. I also have a controller video that's coming soon, and probably just more news stuff as well. Nice.
Cool.
But that's going to be it for the NerdNest podcast today. Thanks for hanging out with us, and thanks to the panel for making time, because we are recording at a very different time than we usually do. But I hope you guys all have a fantastic weekend, and stay rad, everybody. Bye-bye.